What do we have here? It looks like there's some purple nonsense going on, and everyone knows purple nonsense means Xur. So, hello everyone, my name is Veritas, and welcome back to Destiny. Now today is Friday, Xur Day. I have to keep remembering that. Between Reset Day and Xur Day, I get very confused sometimes. Anyway, those purple flowers and little 9 sigil on the tower front mean that Xur, the Agent of 9, is somewhere in the tower. This week he happens to move very, very little, and is in front of the mystery door that is no longer really a mystery. So Xur is an exotic merchant. If you didn't know, he sells exotics for strange coins, and if you're new to Destiny, picking it up now to get into it before Destiny 2 comes out, I recommend going and grinding through some strikes to get some coins and maybe purchase yourself some of this there exotic gear. This week there's nothing special, so I recommend saving it up for maybe next week. But let's go ahead and talk about some stuff and see what things you shouldn't be buying this week, because it's all not great. Anyway, let's get into it then. Legacy engram here, heavy weapon engram. This will decrypt into a year 1 heavy weapon, so the OG Yallarhorn, super good advice, things along those lines. Old Thunderlord, max light here has 170, so unless you need something for your collection, I don't recommend picking this engram up. It's very expensive and won't give you anything good and useful for the current day and age. The Titan exotic this week is the Helm of Saint 14. This will cause enemies to go blind when they're inside your Ward of Dawn. Defender helmet, if I ever saw one. Intellect strength roll on this. The stat roll on this helmet is a whopping 88%. That is sarcasm, if you were wondering. 88% there, not great at all. There are better rolls out there. If you need it for your collection or you just really want it and you haven't gotten it yet, I recommend picking it up. It's a very useful defender helmet, probably one of the more useful PvE defender exotics in the game just because of the Starless Night perk here with the blinding enemies. Very good for raids and things like that. Increase intellect and strength on this, hands-on, heavy lifting, and better already. Those are your perks available there. I believe this will always have intellect regardless of re-rolling because it's super-based exotic, so pick that up if you want it. Otherwise, 88% there, not worth your time for tier 12. Moving into the Hunter exotic this week, we have the ATS-8 Arachnid. Intellect strength roll on this. This will always have intellect, I believe, as it is a super-based exotic helmet. Golden Gun lasts longer and zooms in further when aimed. This is the Arachnid Sensorium perk. Love that perk name. So your Golden Gun zooms in for more accuracy when aimed and can be kept ready for longer. So your Golden Gun lasts longer and it zooms further when you ADS with it. It's kind of useless. Overall, there are better exotics for the Hunter. Pretty much every other one, except a lot of gunslinger exotics are kind of useless, honestly. You're better off using something that's universal, anything other than this, really. So 87% stat roll here, so not super good. Increased intellect, strength, hands-on, second thoughts, and invigoration here, so perks are stat roll is really what's going to hold this back. It is the worst roll out of all the helmets this week, out of all the exotics this week, so I recommend staying away from this unless you need it for a collection purpose. Moving into the Warlock exotic this week, we have the Ram. The Ram is probably one of the better Warlock exotics, and this is a 95% stat roll, so it's pretty useful and a pretty good stat roll overall. Being in the mid-90s is actually where I would start recommending picking things up. 95 plus is where I would start recommending things. Discipline strength here. This will always have strength as it's a melee-based exotic piece of armor. Let's go ahead and talk about the perks, though. So the strength of the Ram is the exotic perk here. Very gorgeous helmet. Looks good with a lot of shaders. I recommend picking it up right off the bat. If you're a Warlock or you have a Warlock and you don't have an exotic for it yet, pick this one up. It's useful for all of the subclasses, specifically Voidwalker. I like to run it with Sunsinger, but you can run it with any subclass. It's built for Voidwalker though. So increased armor here, and all Voidwalker melees trigger lifesteal on hit. Increased armor does actually help a bit. In the Crucible, you'll notice it more. With this helmet, you can, I don't know if they changed it, but you used to be able to have the highest armor in game. I think you still can. I'm not sure if they nerfed that in one of the recent Crucible patches or not, but the increased armor on this helmet is actually very noticeable in the Crucible, so slap this on, run in the Crucible, you'll survive a couple more hits than you're used to, so very good for things like Trials or just running around in regular Crucible. Voidwalker melees trigger lifesteal on hit, so you can get a very high recharge on lifesteal, causing regeneration, and that's all melees, that's not just charged melees, so if you just hit something with an uncharged melee, you'll get the lifesteal, I believe. So good good things there. Very useful helmet. Increased discipline, increased strength, hands-on, second thoughts, and invigoration are your perks here. Stat roll, like I said, is 95%, so that's where I start recommending picking things up, especially since the Ram is actually a very useful Warlock exotic, like I said. Now, moving into something that's not useful, the Hereafter Sniper Rifle. This is an arc burn sniper rifle, so it has arc damage. This thing is actually quite interesting. It was added, I believe, with Taken King. Maybe it was added in April update. Not entirely sure when. But the Hereafter, crouching increases scope zoom and makes it easier to aim while under fire. It's a very interesting sniper rifle. It looks interesting, it's weird, and using it is very strange. We have smooth ballistics here, linear compensator, and aggressive ballistics. Always go for more impact on snipers, unless you need more range. It really comes down to personal preference. I run this with aggressive ballistics just for that extra impact. Perfectionist magazine is refunded when all shots fired are precision kills, so you're not ever going to get this to happen on anything other than, you know, trash mobs like Thrall or Dregs, so kind of a useless perk at the end of the day, unless you're running Crucible and somehow you manage to get all headshots, in which case you're probably getting reported by some salty person on the enemy team. Snapshot, injection mold, and speed reload. I believe I run speed reload on this, maybe snapshot if you're going to use it. And then you have blinding light. This is the interesting thing about this exotic sniper rifle. Precision kills of this weapon cause a bright flash that can blind nearby enemies. This is obnoxious as shit in the Crucible. I will tell you that. People have run this against me and killed people on my team that are next to me, like around a corner. Like capturing B Hill on Vertigo when you're standing like off to the side and someone's down in the middle and they headshot your stupid teammate that's standing in the hill for no reason, and then you can't see for 5 seconds, and then just a Nova Bomb comes in. It's amazing. It's very fun to mess around with in the Crucible, especially. It's more or less useless in PvE because blinding things is not really super helpful. But for Crucible, it's very funny. I would recommend picking it up if you have the extra coins and you just want to mess around with it. If it sounds like a fun sniper for you, go ahead and snag it. Otherwise, you can leave it be. It's not super useful. There are better special exotics, and there are better arc exotics, better everything than this sniper. But if you want to mess around with it for fun's sake, go ahead and pick it up. Moving down to the weapon bundles this week, we have the Monte Carlo and Super Spy, and the Truth rocket launcher with Prototype. Truth is kind of a useful exotic for a rocket launcher with, you know, super aggressive tracking. It's actually kind of fun. It's a Void rocket launcher. It's pretty neat. We'll look at it in a little bit when I show you about talk about exotic shards in a minute here. But it's okay if you want to pick it up just for fun's sake. It's good for the Crucible, really, and that's about it. Prototype is probably the lesser of the two ornaments here. We can look at these when we go to the kiosk. For Monte Carlo and Super Spy, Monte Carlo's ornaments are both actually really nice. Monte Carlo in general, not a super useful exotic. It's good for when you need to get your melee up constantly because of its exotic perks. We can look at that in the kiosk in a second here. But basically, get these if you want them. If you wanted a Monte Carlo and you want an extra ornament, you know, Super Spy, pretty nice red and black ornament there. Prototype on Truth makes it look all metally and prototypey, you know, things like that. But our recommendations here, pick them up if you want them. If you don't know what they are, I'll show you in the kiosk at the end of this video if you're curious as to what these, you know, exotic perks look like, but we'll take a look at that in a minute. Otherwise, pick it up if you want it, save your stuff if you do not. Moving down to curios, we have the Emerald Coil for the first time in what feels like forever, and the Void Drive. One's quoted, one's unquoted, because consistency is #1 here at Bungie. Emerald Coil and the Void Drive can be used to upgrade rare quality sparrows. They can be purchased from the Vanguard and Crucible Quartermasters into legendary quality sparrows with a green or purple trail, respectively. So if you want a green trailed sparrow or a purple trailed sparrow, go ahead and pick these up. They're quite expensive, but, you know, fashion is worth every strange coin. So moving into heavy ammo synthesis, we have 3 for 1 and 10 for 3. Always recommend 10 for 3. It's technically cheaper, but these can be used to trade into factions for faction reputation. Those packages drop up to 400 light, so if you're trying to level an alt or trying to level in general, go ahead and pick this stuff up after you join a faction. Otherwise, they're actually meant to be used to replenish your heavy ammo supply while in combat, so always good to have heavy ammo synthesis for raids, strikes, everything. It's always good to have them, so snag some of these if you want them. 3 of coins is a stackable consumable. This is a point of contention from everyone, because no one understands what stackable means in this sense, but a stackable effect that increases the chances of the next Ultra you defeat or Crucible match you complete, awarding an exotic engram. What this does is, if you use a 3 of coins, you have a small % chance of the next Ultra you kill or Crucible match you complete to drop an exotic engram. When you do that thing and you don't get one, then you can use another 3 of coins. This next chance has an increased percentage. As you do this and don't get them from doing the things, you get a slowly increased chance. If you get one on the first try, good for you, you're really lucky, I hate you. It usually takes about 5 or 6 to get something to drop. Don't use 5 of them at once, it does not increase your chances. The effect is increased as you do not get them from killing Ultras and Crucible match completions. So, be mindful of that. Confusing, but not really. Just use one, go through a strike, kill the boss. Use one, go through a strike, kill the boss. Same thing with Crucible matches. Glass needles are a very endgame piece of material. I don't recommend picking these up unless you have an excessive amount of strange coin, motes of light, and exotic shards, as they take a lot of them, and they're actually very stingy on giving you what you want. But these are material that you can use to re-roll exotic armors. So if you really want, if you really want the Helm of Saint 14, but you're really sad that it's only an 88% stat roll, you can go ahead and purchase one with some glass needles and re-roll it with Twist Fate. And this will allow you to change the stats and upgrades available on the armor. This changes which stats are there, so maybe you re-roll it into Intellect and Discipline, maybe re-roll it into straight Intellect, maybe do nothing. It'll always have Intellect as its super base, so be mindful of that. Certain exotics have to have certain stats because they're based on that, like Void Fang Vestments. Increases your grenade abilities, so it will always have Discipline. So it's a nice rule of thumb there, nice quick cheat sheet if you're curious as to what your armor will have. It'll also re-roll what perks you have, so these will change up a little bit. Some armors can and can't have certain perks, to be mindful of that. You can find those on the Bungie.net Armory if you're super curious about that. But glass needles can be used to reroll armors, like I just said. It's pretty useful if you're trying to get like a perfect roll on something, but I really recommend staying away from them unless you have an excessive amount of the materials required to do so. Moving down to material exchange, we have the motes of light for strange coins. This is the worst conversion rate in the game. Never use it. You're better off getting motes of light from any other source than this, but if you're really strapped for motes and you want to, go ahead. This conversion rate's terrible though, so I recommend always staying away from it. Moving into the exotic shards though, these are a nice little material, and if you want more than one of these, I will show you how to quote-unquote duplicate them, because 7 strange coins for one of these is incredibly expensive. Let's go ahead and head back to the Vanguard in the center of the tower, and I will show you how to get more of these for much cheaper than purchasing them from Xur, because saving people strange coins is my dedication in Destiny 1 right now. Especially for all the new players coming in and wanting to upgrade or infuse exotic armors, you might want to check out this trick that Bungie devs don't want you to see. You know, that kind of thing. But we're going down here to the weapon kiosk. This requires you actually having weapons unlocked though, so super new game people will not be able to do this, but you'll eventually be able to do it. Let's go ahead and take a look at these things. Head over to Collection 2 and pick yourself up a current heavy weapon. Truth Rocket is what I usually tend towards. You can also use Dragon's Breath, super good advice, Thunderlord, and the rocket launchers as well. I don't believe it works for swords or sleeper. I haven't tested it, and I refuse to test it because it's a lot of material to test it, but use a rocket launcher, preferably Truth or Nemesis Star. I know those two work. I believe Thunderlord does as well. 100% there. Go ahead and equip this Truth rocket launcher, and we will go ahead and upgrade this. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. Check down here in your class item and see if you have a class item that increases the upgrade rate for rocket launchers. If you do, slap that on because that will actually save you some glimmer here. If you do not have a class item that increases upgrade rate for rocket launchers, or if you're using a machine gun, find one that has machine gun upgrade rate, head to your inventory and see if you have heavy telemetries. These can be purchased from the gunsmith for a couple hundred glimmer. They're super cheap, but using a heavy telemetry or a class item do the same thing. They do not stack together though, but they do stack with the Radiant Light buff from the Nightfall. So if you've done the Nightfall, you will have the Radiant Light buff. This increases all XP and reputation gains by 25%, which does stack with either the class item or the heavy telemetry. So use one of those things with the Nightfall buff, and you will get increased reputation and experience gains towards your leveling up. This will then cost 5 motes of light to fully level up this rocket launcher. I don't know why my game just stuttered. I don't know if I just used 6 or not. I lost count because the game stuttered. Anyway, this should be full of experience now. There you go, 5 motes of light. Don't count the screen. I don't know if I used 6, but it takes 5 with radiant light, takes 6 without it. If you're not using an upgrade rate thing, it takes even more than that. I don't recommend doing that. But once you've done that and it's full of experience, you don't even have to level it up at all. Just go ahead and dismantle it, and your 1 exotic shard that you purchase from Xur for 7 strange coins turns magically into 2 exotic shards, some motes, weapon parts, and glimmer back for you there. But that's pretty much how you duplicate quote-unquote exotic shards. It's a much cheaper method since motes of light are a lot easier to acquire than strange coins are in general. You get them from leveling and from everything else. So that's how I recommend doing things if you're curious about that. But like I mentioned earlier, let's look at the Monte Carlo and the Truth Rocket if you're curious about purchasing those. From the bundles he's offering this week. So Monte Carlo, like I said, melee based, very good for melee. The ornament looks something like this. Pretty nice. The other ornament looks like this. It's gold and black as opposed to red and black. So you're looking for Super Spy. This is what you're going to get. It looks good. It looks very Siva-y. Anyway, what this thing does, kinetic damage, has hip fire, but the thing you're looking for here is the Monte Carlo method. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with every kill. So as you fire this thing into enemies' faces, it regenerates your melee. A lot, actually. So it's really good if you have like melee bonus for Challenge of Elders, or you're looking for something like Brawler in the Strikes. Monte Carlo is good for running things where you need to melee a lot. Other than that, it's kind of useless. Crucible, it's okay. But overall, it's not that great. If you're going to run this, though, I recommend doing aggressive ballistics, hip fire, high caliber rounds, or send it. Doesn't really matter. This middle tree is up to you. I like high caliber rounds for staggering, and then obviously Monte Carlo method. If you're going to buy it from Xur this week, you will get it with the Super Spine, so it'll look like that. So that's the recommendation there if you want to purchase the Monte Carlo from him. The Truth Rocket Launcher, on the other hand, like I said, it's a better probably alternative because it is void, good for Crucible, fun things like that. It does void damage, like I said. For the launch method here, you're probably going to go with probably hard launch because it has the highest blast radius. If you're looking to be fun, you can go for confined launch for the increased stability, but stability in a rocket launcher doesn't make any sense. So stick with hard launch. You'll always get grenades and horseshoes. Here, you're going to want increased blast radius, always blast radius, so heavy payload here maxes out the blast radius, and Prototype True Seeker, rounds fired from this weapon seek their targets aggressively. It's not messing around when it says aggressively either. This will track someone through Crucible games and kill them 3 matches down. Don't quote me on that, but it's close. What you're going to get with this, if you buy the bundle, is Prototype. It looks something like that, silver and orange. Hideous, hideous. The other one is Heart of Gold, also hideous, hideous. It looks like a Call of Duty Black Ops 3 skin, but yeah, Prototype is what you're gonna get with that for the Xur bundle, but I don't recommend picking that up because it's meh. But that's going to be it for me for this week. I hope I helped someone along the line there make a decision or make an informed decision, both of which are important. That's where Xur is. That's what he's got over by the speaker. Pick up the Ram helmet if you're a Warlock or plan to have one in the future. 95% is pretty decent. You don't usually see anything like that in Xur's inventory. He usually doesn't have good rolls on things. Other than that, pick up what you want, pick up what you need. Heavy ammo sense, like I said, always good to have that. But that's going to be pretty much it for me. I will see you guys on Tuesday for the weekly reset video. If you want to see more from me, solo or co-op nonsense, links in the description to that, as well as Twitter and Twitch links. If you want to follow me on those websites, that's going to be it for me. Check out the videos on screen in the top right now if you want to see something funny, hopefully. And other than that, it's going to be it for me. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, until next time.